All right, so we're live. Very good evening, everyone. We are back with yet another weekly career class. And today's session, the topic is government and public sector advisory or consulting, as most people call it. So we have a we have a speaker with us today, and I'd like to introduce her to you, and I'm sure you'll be happy to meet her. Her name is Yashika Fulwani. She is a business management and impact enthusiast with professional experience spanning close to 6 years. She has worked primarily in the management consulting industry in education and skilling, as well as finance management. She has worked as an educator, mentor, and entrepreneur. Currently, she's working as an assistant manager in government advisory at KPMG. And notably, she is also an ISB, Indian School of Business, Hyderabad MBA alumnus. So very, very honored, Yashika, to have you on our platform today to speak to young adults and school students as well. And I'm sure all of them are as thrilled as I am to hear from you. So before we begin, I'd also like to mention to our audience that please feel free to ask queries in the YouTube chat pertaining to today's topic. We will be taking that up towards the end. So with that, let's move ahead and over to you, Yashika.
Am I audible?
Yes, Yashika, you're audible.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks a lot so much for having me here. It's my pleasure to be interacting with the leaders for tomorrow in this virtual workshop. So, hi everybody. I am Yashika. I will be sharing a bit about me a little later, and thanks Amar for already graciously sharing few lines on my experience so far. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and interacting with you all. So today's session is going to be around how to build a career in government and public sector advisory. And you must have heard a lot about this. And sometimes people also um, call it as government consulting. Some people name it as development consulting. It's different nomenclature, but it pertains to very different segments and very different problem statements. So today I'm going to talk about career in government and public sector advisory from the lens of, say, management consulting to government. So that's something that we're going to discuss. And I have kept this session as a very 101 sort of a session. It's sort of an introduction to the wide arena of government and public sector advisory. While we all know that everything cannot be covered in one complete session, but I hope to give you sort of a fundamental way to begin with. And of course, later on, I'm happy to interact with you on maybe LinkedIn or email or via ID Career again. So yeah, let me begin with the presentation. Samarth, I would request you to give me a time check after say half an hour or so.
Sure, Yashika.
Thank you. All right. So yeah, so a little bit about me. I won't cover it in detail. So I'm originally from Madhya Pradesh, Bhopal, and I've lived there for 17 years of my life. I studied in a very community-driven school called as Namakkal School, and post that I came to Delhi to do my undergrad from in BCom honors from Sri Ram College of Commerce. I had a privilege to learn from the best peers and associates there. And I also have done my MBA from the Indian School of Business. Mine was Mohali campus, but it's one college and two campus, so it's hardly any difference. I have close to 6 years of work experience. I've worked in KPMG and Teach for India. I was an educator in Teach for India. And my primary hobbies are playing musical instruments and attending a lot of workshops, events, concerts, gatherings. I like socializing a lot. And I am a big time foodie, so yes, food visits. And my favorite quote is actually, "We rise by lifting others," because I truly believe that there is no self development without self empowerment, without empowering others, and vice versa. So we are people who are connected with each other very strongly, and it's good to support everybody in all phases of life. There's no competition that way. So yes, so this is about me, and basically I'm trying to set a context for now. So what we'll be covering in today's session are the following aspects. One, what exactly is government and public service advisory? Then something about my first case. So to just give you a sense of what sort of problem statements exist in this space. then the major employers in the industry that you might want to look out for, considering you are just starting out your careers now, or say you're building blocks towards your careers. And part four would be your trajectory. So that means what sort of pathway should you follow from level zero to level Z in order to make a career in this space. And then I'll be open to question and answers. So yeah, so this is the context. I'll give you a moment to read it and then we'll move forward. Okay, so we'll start with first things first, that what exactly is government and public service or public sector advisory? Basically, it's when we say government advisory, primarily the client is government, right? But the solutions and services that we can provide to the client can be management driven, can be business driven, can be strategy driven, right? Or can sometimes even be beyond that, be implementation driven. In certain spaces, when we call some services as government advisory, some bits of it also include working directly with the government in helping them implement the new programs that they want to start or do, or the problems that they are struggling with. So, what in a nutshell, what this means is that advising government on a series of large scale problems. Why large scale? Because more or less government is working towards the welfare activities of a nation. So whenever we introduce a solution to a problem or we introduce any program or strategy, that would largely be catering to an audience which is at least 1,000 in number. So I mean, it goes to lakhs, it sometimes goes to crores, but yeah, it's not for like 100, say 100 people, or it's not going to be for just 50 people, and the number is quite large. So what government advisors do is they contribute in building resilient ecosystem or systems for future to enhance the development of socioeconomic or say economic or say just social development of the citizens. So government advisory, so government hires government advisors for a reason. There are certain problems that governments face on a very regular basis, especially spanning across digitization, or especially spanning across say large scale service delivery, for which sometimes they feel that their own work does not give them enough time to focus on solving such problems. So what they do is they hire advisors or consultants to come and help them to solve those problems and bring in their set of expertise for some sort of synergy there. And because these problems are so large scale, the typical life of one consulting assignments is at least 6 months. There are problem statements that, because imagine if you are building problem for solving problem for a particular state, how can it be solved in a matter of say a month? In a month, you may just touch and understand what is happening in the state in itself. So to understand the problems and to build an approach, to work with the large scale stakeholders there, like the district beneficiaries or the district decision makers, then the state decision makers, then the national decision makers. It's a long process. So a typical life is at least 6 months, and that's also for a very small problem statement, small in terms of scale. So yes, so this is primarily what advising government or government advisory mean. There are certain key domains, key services, and client groups that I've highlighted on the screen. So key domains is anything and everything that the several ministries in our country do. The several sectors for public development and growth, which is healthcare. It can be skilling, infrastructure, education, defense, power and utilities, anything and everything with respect to such domains. And in certain cases, also just business advisory to affiliates of government, or say organizations which are registered as part of a special act by the legislation under the parliament, just giving them simple business advice. So key domains are these. Then there are certain solutions that government advisories primarily work, right? Strategy is a core part of any consulting, and so is true for government advisory as well. Similarly, financial modeling, studying budgets, predicting what sort of programs to undertake at a state level or at a national level that makes financial sense. Okay, they should be sustainable. Therefore, financial modeling is a key part of our solutions. Then, large scale systemic management. Say, for example, you have to alter the education system for an entire state. So, for that, you will undergo a 4 to 5 year long engagement where you'll be working on every single thing with every single important aspect in the education system, and be it teaching and learning systems, be it student learning outcomes, be it building digital architecture of schools, anything with respect to that is talking to each other and is part of an entire system, giving an advisory on how to change the system, how to build it more strongly and make it more resilient. Then, of course, a very big part of large scale transformation and last mile service delivery to remote corners and nooks of the nation is via digital transformation and bringing education to the doorstep, education or healthcare, or say power and utilities to the doorstep of the beneficiaries. So, therefore, a lot of digital transformation. And wherever you will hear about government advisory, right, you will often hear this term called as PMU, which is called as the project management unit. So what that means is that, say, if we are hired for for a long problem, say for 1 year, and then we give a lot of strategic advisory to it in the first 3 to 4 months, what government expects is that beyond advisory, if your company can give us a few people who can work with us on a daily basis to make the strategy into a reality by operationalizing systems, so we would be happy to hire you as part of our own system. And that sort of entire system is called as project management unit, which is set up at the client level itself to work with client on everyday operations to make the strategy a reality. So that's called as the PMU. So these are the various solutions that are offered. And one very important solution that I missed talking about right now is also program design. So when government is starting a system, say on a national scale, say something as large as the Swachh Bharat mission. So for that also, as part of delivering such a large program, you have to create smaller programs at various geographies and districts level, encompassing or targeting a lot of different segments for equity and of course for inclusivity. In that situation, you have to start very contextual programs at local level. So you have to think global and act local. It's something like that. So these are the key services that we offer, and the key clientele base that we have. When we say clientele, it means the kind of customer base that we have from a very business lens that we speak. There's ministry, of course, Ministry of Health, Ministry of IT, and Information Technology, Ministry of Skilling, right, entrepreneurship, and Ministry of Education. So ministries at the largest national scale. Then, of course, the departments under ministries, such as Department of Skill Development and Department of or Directorate of Education or Department of Higher Education, etc. Then state government in itself, if we are not taking the ministry route, certain policy making agencies and think tanks because they work in tandem with the government, and statutory corporations that I had spoken before. Companies, say someday if RBI needs an advisory, or say sometimes LIC would need an advisory. So we would go and advise them. But one thing to note is that in most cases, when government is requiring any sort of advisory, they are looking for expertise of at least 8 to 10 years in general in that particular domain. So, say for example, you have worked in healthcare advisory in the past, and the current problem statement has come from the Ministry of Skilling. So, in that situation, you will be expected to have experience of a few years at least working with skilling in order to get a contract with the government in skilling. So they prefer specialists is something I wanted to highlight over here. So yeah, so this is about what is government and public sector advisory in a nutshell. Someone help me understand, is this a two-way interaction now, or It's one way, and we'll be taking questions later.
We'll take up questions later, but you may feel free
Okay.
to ask the audience any questions.
Okay, it's because I can't see the chat option in my
Chat.
screen, so I would prefer asking it at the end.
Sure.
So yeah, okay, so let's do that. Okay, so let's go to the next section of this presentation, which is my first case. Actually, I had a lot exposure to a lot of cases before this one also. But then when I say it my first case, this means a case which I was involved from beginning to the end, so that I'm able to highlight my experience in a more rich manner. So I was working um, with one of the prominent eastern states of India, and the client was a nodal skill development agency as part of um, government of a particular state, which was the East state. And the client wanted to build the state's skill vision towards the next decade and how to achieve the same. So they wanted to build a skill vision for 2030 and how to achieve the same. Now this is a big problem statement, right? How can four people sitting in an office at client build something so large and enormous and something that will shape India's vision for 2047, or say India's journey towards the sustainable development goals, right? In that situation, we were wondering where to begin with, and this engagement was signed up for a period of 6 months. So what we did was, in order to prepare skill vision for a state, we first wanted to understand what is the current state assessment, right? Then what is happening in the skill industry in itself, uh, I'm sorry, in the state. So what we did was, we went around studying very rigorously about the skill ecosystem of the state, right? All the ITIs, the polytechnics, the people who are registered in these institutes, the students who are out of the system of formal education, and how are they working in what different avenues? What are the enterprises started by people in this segment, which is the youth? And then what is the demand of such people in organizations or industry? And how much jobs are being generated by the industry, to understand what is the demand and supply match in order to predict what should be the priority for the next 10 years. And of course, then design the vision accordingly. And we took sort of a futures backward approach, which is something that I missed highlighting before. So future backwards approach means that we 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 thought that we want to take our state to XYZ position in the next 10 years. And for creating a picture like that, which is creating a high sense of possibility, what are the measures that which we should take at this point in time, divided between current year, then next 3 years, then 5 years, and 10 years, in order to reach that high vision that we had set. The reason was that we just didn't want to understand where we are currently and then just make incremental goals for the next 10 years. We thought that it would be important to create ambitious goals and then start from there, because our mindset was that we don't want to hold ourselves back. We might be setting a vision which is sort of under capacity, right? So why not set a vision which helps us pivot for a larger step? So for that, we did an as assessment to understand the state first. Then we did a trend analysis. We studied the past 8 to 10 years and also what is happening across the world internationally in the skilling space. What are other states doing? So doing that sort of benchmarking. And we also spoke to leaders across education space, leaders across the skilling space, in industries, in ministries, in schools, in NGOs. We spoke to over 100, you can say, key experts, which are nationally and internationally recognized. These were people who were Bharat Ratna awardees, right? Magasese Award awardees. So, I mean, people who've been recognized in the world, and to understand what was their say to make this state the next best thing in the span of 10 years in terms of skilling. So we did that. And as part of this entire exercise, we had a few deliverables in place, which was We prepared a new state skill policy. We prepared the vision for the next decade and also a strategic roadmap to achieve the same, and encompassing the key steps that should be taken year on year, key stakeholders that we should be interacting with, key budget we should be setting, and key initiatives we should be introducing in order to reach that particular vision. So this is what we did. And although I'm saying this was a 6 month engagement, because the scope was so wide, it took us close to a year and a half to deliver the entire engagement because there were so many nitty-gritties involved in the entire case. So this was the case, and this is the kind of cases we generally work with, right? So say creating skills policy, changing out the entire ERP system of all the universities or all the schools in the country, right? Or supporting the government in the Swachh Bharat mission. So problem statements can be ranged from they range from anything with respect to financial advisory to management advisory, basis what are the challenges that the client is facing. But the key skills that we need is something that is very important in this entire scenario of government advisory. And that's something that I'll be covering in next to next slide. So yes, similarly, I had also worked with the with the state, which is Nagaland, on education transformation. I've also worked with a prominent central state on introducing new government English medium schools in the state. Because the particular domain that I work with is education and skilling, government advisory. Like I highlighted, they expect specialists to work in this field. That is why I had to have some experience in education and scaling before stepping into this particular domain. Now, I wanted to highlight a few key employers in government advisory in our country. So, Big Four, definitely KPMG, Deloitte, EY, and PwC have a dedicated government and public service segment in their firm, which can be studied about by going in their respective websites, and they release a lot of thought leaders, or thought leaderships, and a lot of point of view documents and industry reports where which can be studied to understand the work they've done and the work that is required to be done in this field. And there is Sattva Consulting, there is Samagra, although Samagra focuses on governance advisory more than government advisory. There's BCG. BCG has a special social impact practice wherein they work with, they're currently working with the ARP government of the state in a lot of education advisory. That's something that can be read about. The Education Alliance also is there, and it also has an office in MP. I know that better because I am from MP. They're doing some really good work there. Although these all companies have some, of course, because they're competitors, they have some sort of dynamics going on that way. But every firm has something unique to offer in terms of their expertise, in terms of geographies that they operate in terms of advisory that they do. I particularly have been in KPMG since the inception of my career, and it's been great so far. And we primarily work on management consulting problems in certain specific states, and at the central level. Currently, we are also working with the Ministry of Education in higher education projects across a period of a year now. And yeah, so these are certain employers that you should make a note of. And why I highlighted them over here is because their scale of operation is large. They take they take projects that are nationally recognized, and they work on a very regular basis. They have a very rich experience of I'm sure at least 2 decades in this particular space. So it's good to learn about them, follow them on their LinkedIn pages, and write to them in case you want to learn something about them. So these are the employees, right? Um, which brings me to the next part, which according to me is a very essential part of this entire presentation, is if you are currently in school or say in first year or second year, or you've just started your career from scratch, it's important for you to build some basics in order to make a career in government and public sector advisory. and following are my 2 cents to help you understand what is something that you can do. So first of all, the most important thing to be done is do your homework very well. So a part of your homework is to watch this particular video as well, to also understand that what exactly um, is the ambit of government advisory in general. And how would you be able to understand that is through a few following steps that I've mentioned on the screen. One is definitely read and research a lot about the job profiles, the domains, and the opportunities out there in the government advisory space, right? You can figure that out from going and studying the company website, the reports that the companies are releasing on a regular basis, the things that companies are sharing on their LinkedIn profiles or their professional networks. It's very important to read about them on a very regular basis. A lot about these companies will also, or the problem statements that the companies are trying to be solved will also be highlighted in consortium groups that they are working with as well. More often than not, when we are working with the ministry or department or say state government on any problem statement, they would be working with a other set of stakeholders as well. For example, they must be working with NGOs for operational delivery at grassroots level. So those NGOs must also be sharing about the work that they are doing. And KPMG must also be working in tandem and sort of in an advisory capacity with them. So they would also be covering the work that they are doing together. A lot would be covered by the ministry itself in their own website or in the news. It will be highlighted very regularly. Uh, Through that, you will also be able to understand the struggles of the ministry, right? Because they will not write it directly. But then you will have to read between the lines to understand what is their strategic priority right now and what are the segments that are eyeing on improving. Where can we step in? And if we have to step in there, what kind of skills do we build in order to even be there as a stepping advisors, right? So read a lot about what companies are doing, read a lot about the industry updates. There are reports that FICCI releases, Invest India releases, and these companies in itself releases as part of their thought leaderships to understand what are the strategic and national priorities in place. Third is read a lot about national reports, right? The economic survey that comes in, the census data that is there, right? And the budget updates that come in every year in during February, March. So that's something that you should be very well versed with in terms of your knowledge. Therefore, only you will be able to you will be even considered for a role in this space because they expect one to be a very keen observer of the trends in the industry. So that's something you should do. And do your own homework on understanding the company offerings, the kind of roles that are impactful or they align to your capabilities or your vision. That's something you can do from through this step. Second is to now that you understand these are the roles or these are the companies I'm wanting to target, these are the domains and disciplines I'm interested in advising uh, for to the government, build some key capabilities and competencies across your profile in order to stand out, right? One is the like I highlighted, there are certain solutions that we offer. And to be well versed in those solutions, there are some fundamental skills, technical skills that you need to develop. These are data analysis or data analytics because more often than not, we are constantly working with big data. Now, I was working with a central state on predicting the learning outcomes for all the students from grade 8th to grade 10th of that particular state, all the students in the government schools. So you can understand how large the data I must have got. There were at least 5 lakh rows. And if there were 5 lakh rows in Excel, the Excel was crashing. So for that, using SQL or R was very important. And that made me realize that yes, in order to solve this problem, I will have to learn R. So data analysis, data analytics is very important. Research and data collection, right? You should know a lot of research techniques, how to create surveys, what sort of questionnaires to prepare, how to reach the right audience, how to conduct interviews with them, in-depth interviews as well as focus group discussions, both of them. For that, you need to do some sort of learning, right? Storyboarding. Storyboarding means how to approach a problem in itself from scratch. Where do I begin? Where do I end? Market sizing. Why? Because you would be maybe devising solution to problems for specific segments. So to understand that segments, you will have to size the segments, size the entire market into segments first. So that's a very important skill that we need to learn. Systems thinking. Why? Because more often than not, the problems that you must be solving would be very complex and large scale in nature, right? So in order to say alter the midday meal policy in schools. You will also have to interact with the Anganwadis. You will have to interact with the school systems, the parents, the food vendor in itself, right? And the students with respect to what do they want. I mean, it's a problem which is so complex and has, I call it a tree problem because there's so many branches that you need to understand about those branches in itself to fix a particular problem, right? So systems thinking is very important and networking because this is very important for business development. You need to be very, very through with respect to your networking skills and you need to attend a lot of networking events within and outside the ministry to understand what's happening. Then second bit is the soft skills, right? More often than not, you will understand that the problem statements that we get are people problems than a system, than a particular technical problem, right? Because it will be so difficult to move needle from one bit to another unless you know how to manage relationships well with the client and with your team and with all the players in that particular system. So relationship management is extremely important. So is communication and feedback, conflict management, because there will be times when you will be of a different opinion than what the ministry is thinking. But you will have to bring in that sort of parity in what you are thinking and what the ministry wants with a lot of positivity and optimism. And that requires a lot of understanding of power and politics and patience. So that's something that you need to develop as part of soft skills. Mindset in any consulting platform is client first. What client is the god, right? What client wants is something that we will have to do. And of course, if you are into government advisory, you must be interested in the welfare of people because you can't solve a problem by being highly unempathic. So you'll have to be highly compassionate and highly impact oriented in order to design solutions to these problems because people are the key players here. Then you should also know a few tools. If you have orientation to a particular technology that makes you solve problems better and also makes you more in demand in the market. Uh, some tools I've listed on the screen are maybe Canva, ChatGPT, Clarizen, and things like those. Clarizen is a project management software. If you know PMP, that would be great as well. That's project management program. If you've done that, that would be helpful. So these are the things, the just a snapshot, guys. This is not exhaustive at all. This is a snapshot of key skills and competencies in the space. Now, after you've done your research and you have been identifying and already got a head start on building some key skills and competencies, because this is a lifelong learning process. It's not that you will invest 2 years and build all the skills and competencies. It won't happen. It will happen parallelly. Then if you have set up some fundamental skills, the next step would be to definitely build a very strong profile. Now, in general, to step into government and public sector advisory, we expect the students to have some sort of ground experience in the past, and if not ground experience, some sort of masters in particular domains or generalist degree in itself. So an MBA is definitely expected to grow in this field, or a master's in public policy, or a master's in education, master's in philosophy, masters in arts, anything with respect to people benefits is to be done. But then to enter into this particular field, any undergrad, any relevant undergrad would do. Say you do something, your undergrad in arts or commerce or engineering, it does not matter as long as your internships or volunteering or any sort of experience or any sort of thesis, if you've opted for research, or any exposure is with respect to that particular specialized category for which government is seeking solutions. Say we are solving a health related problem, so it would be helpful if you have done a lot of case competitions in healthcare, or it would be helpful if you have worked with any hospital, or you have done some sort of volunteering with a hospital, or it would be helpful if you have done your some courses in medical sciences or life sciences in the past. So even if you have not done masters, you will be accepted as an analyst or say associate consultant if you have some sort of specialist areas and very strong problem solving capabilities. So that's something you should do. Um, you should build very strong brand. So say 2 or 3 years down the line, you intend to work with the Ministry of IT, right? Considering you're also an engineer, it will be helpful that you participate in a lot of blogs. Build your own blogs with respect to your point of views with respect to IT industry and how it can, how what sort of trends are there in the IT industry, or suggesting some solutions from your end to problems with respect to IT, right? Participate in a lot of discussions and be visible. That's very important. And how will you create your visibility? Is by being very active on, say, social media and be very active on LinkedIn, especially. Your profile should have some do's, right? Some must-haves. One is, like I said, the brands, right? If you write a research paper, write a blog, contribute in discussions, highlight that in your profile when you're building your CV, right? Second is if you've done some sort of leadership activities where you have created some impact, even if it is for 5 people, does not matter. But you've done something where you have led initiatives, to highlight that in your profile. When I say profile, that means your CV or any video profile that you create. Then, like I've explained before, experience in the sector of interest, like do some courses, do some volunteering, some internships, some volunteer advisory to say NGOs in the space or something like that. Like certification and mastery. For example, I had to do a data analytics certification in R in order to be even recognized in the industry that I know anything, something with respect to data analysis, and then learn the art of CV making and storytelling. And if iDream Career has done it in the past, that would be great. But it would be great if you could organize some sessions for the students with respect to how to build, how to write very impactful CVs, and how to tell a story via your application. So that's something that you also need to learn and build. Last is don't just take a normal route of applying through the job portals if you're interested in any opportunity. Definitely, first of all, build the basics, be visible. Um, like I said, write a lot of blogs, put those blogs in your LinkedIn profile, put those blogs in the CVs that you're making, and put those profiles in general with the organization that you're interning with, or share all those POVs with the institute itself that you're studying at. So say you're in an undergraduate program, share it with your professors, share it with share your opinions with your students, your peers, so as to build some sort of point of views and brainstorming to be prepared to what comes further. Attend a lot of online workshops or physical conclaves. I was in Sri Ram, so we used to organize business conclaves. So it would be good if you are very active in such business conclaves for different institutes. If there are other universities or organizing these hackathons or networking events, please be very active there. Second is, of course, leveraging social media, be visible, be very active on LinkedIn, post a lot of content, create a lot of content, you'll be visible, because then when people comment on your LinkedIn profiles, on your post, it will be visible to people following them in their LinkedIn connections as well. And more often than not, most of the recruiters are sitting on LinkedIn. So they will observe. There are high chances that some recruiter is going to observe your active participation on LinkedIn and it's a very low hanging fruit. It's so easy, yet we don't do it. But if you do it, you'll get that sort of exposure. I'm saying these things because let's be honest, not everybody gets to study in institutes or gets to be a part of such brands which are nationally recognized or globally recognized, right? So we have to think that even if we have not had any sort of brand in our schooling or in our higher education, how can we build a brand for ourselves? So for that, you need to be very active on these platforms with content creation. If you are interested in a job, do write to the founders and the CEOs of that company for sure. And just don't write once. Write consistently, write constantly, offer, and not with requests that please take me into your organization. No. Go to them with some solutions. Now that you have read a lot about the company, you know the kind of work that they do, go propose some solutions that, yes, hi, I have read a lot about what your company does and the impactful work that you are doing. I have realized that there is strategic the east this particular southern state has this particular strategic priority. So can I help you solving that problem from my end, considering I'm a student or considering I'm a job applicant? I would be happy to help you. These are the skills I can offer, right? So consistently share with them through the LinkedIn route or through cold emails with respect to what is that you want to that you can bring on the table and the roles that you would love to contribute. So definitely do that. And when you go through job portals, say Naukri.com, IM Jobs, or any LinkedIn job search in itself, uh, I would I I would really suggest to go through a referral route rather than just applying there, because referrals are taken very seriously in such jobs. And more often than not, government already provides us with a list of skills that they want to hire for. So, say if I'm advising a government, the central ministry right now, they will come back to me and say, hey, we need an IT professional with this education background, with this degree, with this particular set of skills and this particular areas of expertise. So, can you go and find that person for me? So, referrals work a lot in the system. You can simply see these posts being made by people who work in government advisory of various companies, and they would constantly be sharing what is the government seeking and request for application there and then. So definitely follow them and apply and build a referral route. And like I already have highlighted it before, that collaborate via case competitions, organize knowledge sharing sessions, be visible. That would be very, very important. So this is, I'm sure it may be a little overwhelming, but I just wanted to share with you certain steps that you must take in order to build a career in this space, which is the space of government and public sector advising. And yeah, so this was all about the session and the things that I wanted to offer you in this particular segment, not to make it too informative or too overwhelming. So yeah, thanks a lot for your time. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now. I guess we have 15 minutes more for the session.
So thank you so much, Yashika, for the detailed and amazing presentation. I'm sure it gave a lot of us clarity. So now we are in the Q&A round, as Yashika mentioned. So you may please, type in your queries in the chat and we'll address them. All right, Yashika. So meanwhile, you mentioned that you are also required to, work with a lot of data, right? And so you
Yeah,
mentioned, gave an example like you had to learn SQL or hour, for instance. So so does your organization provide you with like resources for that? And also, what as a student, like what are some resources that I can use and refer to?
Okay, sure. Thanks for this question, Samar. So I will be speaking purely from the lens of what KPMG does because I represent them. So KPMG has a continuous learning policy wherein, and many firms also do, but KPMG particularly provides reimbursement of a particular amount for doing a certain, there are various ways. So first is this, which is a continuous learning policy, wherein they encourage employees to take up courses in a particular competency or technical skill from any service provider or edtech company out there and provide them an invoice for the same and they reimburse that amount for us just to promote us to learn constantly. So one step is that. Second is the company in itself organizes a particular, they actually at the start of the financial year or provide us to all our levels, pertaining to all our levels, a roadmap or a sort of uh, funnel to reach a particular skill level. And to reach that particular skill level on a very consistent basis, they organize a lot of L&D workshops for us. They if say an analysis is a major part of my learning, so they will provide us with collaborations and some free courses from KPMG's end in order for us to learn that very well. And third is with respect to, so this one and two was one. The point one was with respect to any course that we want to take in our independent capacity, the firm reimburses for that. Second is anything that the firm is offering that we can take it for free. So the company has some sort of partnerships with a lot of edtech companies, which definitely I would not like to name here as it's confidential. But those companies offer us a lot of courses and an automatic customized roadmap is prepared for us through our learning and management system. So second is that. Third is, of course, in the problem statements in itself. Now, the very fact that the company is giving me real life cases to solve, it helps me apply my knowledge and skills in those real life problems as a consultant or a senior consultant or an associate consultant for that matter. Now some things that I would advise, some courses that can be taken. Now, I don't know if you're asking particularly with respect to analytics, but there are certain platforms out there, such as I learn a lot from Harappa uh, for their bite-sized courses on problem solving and solutions making, right? I also learn do some courses from Simply Learn. My go-to platform is definitely LinkedIn and YouTube to learn these skills. But skills that are, so these are good for skills that can be learned very quickly, or they are not very software heavy. But for skills that need a lot of softwares to be installed, it's better to take support from edtech companies out there, such as Great Learning or say Simply Learn, and again, of course, Coursera. So something like that. And there are some specialist um, providers of education technology services or providers of learning in education technology services or technology services in itself. They are, you must have read about Scalar. So Scalar is doing some really good work. Um, so these are my personal views. Of course, feel free to explore and read about these platforms. So yeah, these would be good because they automatically provide you that sort of. They will help you with installing the software. They would help you with live classes, live support. So yeah, but the major thing that to do is to be consistent and disciplined when you take up such courses. And considering our students must be in the universities or schools in itself, right? For universities, definitely work with a lot of professors. Just approach them, request them to teach you or suggest you some sort of measures to develop these skills.
Thanks, Yashika. So now we have received a lot of questions. So one is doing masters in public policy would help students, right? That's the question.
Yes, yes, absolutely. If you are interested in public policy, definitely do that.
Okay.
Say, for example, to start at a level zero in an organization, you will be able to reach at a level 1, level 2 maximum without masters, right? So if you've done any undergraduate program, one way is to learn at work, learn while doing, and then reach there. But to reach from level 2 to say level 8 or level 9, a master's is very, very handy. So it would be helpful if you do a master's in the relevant profile.
All right, thanks. So the next question is, does public sector advisory involve interacting with civil servants?
Depending on problem statements. So say if we have a problem, so two answers here. One is when we are working with a particular state, of course, the leaders or the bureaucrats in that space would be primarily the ministers and the IAS officers or IPS officers, IFS officers across India. So definitely we get to interact a lot with them. We are working with them hand in hand. So this is when our client particularly is government, right? Now, scenario two is that our client is also government, but the problem statements that they have given involves interacting with the IAS officers in itself for other states. Say I've got a problem statement to be solved in Karnataka, but that necessitates me to interact with of bureaucrats of Rajasthan, so I will do that. That's then ask of the client in itself. But yeah, we definitely get to work a lot with civil servants.
Okay, so the next question is, does Big Four hire freshers for the government sector advisory?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They definitely
Is there
do.
any
That's
preference for
why
what would be some, qualities they would look for in such a candidate?
qualities I've already listed down in my presentation. Feel free to share the presentation with the with
Mhm.
people here. But certain competencies and skills that they look out for is something that I've presented as well. But yeah, one important thing to note is that generally these organizations, if they have to go, they generally go for the campus placement route, right? If you want to, you're a fresher, right? You have absolutely no experience. Then they go to via the campus placement route, right? If unfortunately you are not a part of the campus that they go for hiring, right? In that situation, please follow the alternate route of writing to them first, right? You would, if you follow the companies, you would see the people that work in that company. Keep writing to the HRs, to the directors, or the associate directors or the partners of that particular field, showing a lot of enthusiasm for applying. And KPMG especially has a careers portal where you can go log in and look out for analyst and associate consultant jobs where hardly any experience is required. Definitely speak to people on LinkedIn or people who have worked in those companies for a referral and get that referral, and that's the route that you can go for. So it's campus placement or off-campus placements. The skills I've highlighted before, right, in depth with respect to the technical competencies that you must build, the certifications you must do. So that's something I hope that we can avoid repeating for the interest of time.
Yes, sure, sure. Thanks, Yashika. So I think we have covered a lot of questions I see are, things, answers to which, have already been given. So I'll recommend that you rewind and watch again. So thank you so much, Yashika, for the wonderful and amazing presentation. Very happy. And I'm sure our audience is also of the same opinion. They're already receiving positive feedback. So
Right.
any last tip or anything you would like to say before we end this session?
Yeah. One of the things that I would primarily highlight as a big quality in government advisors is to be um, highly compassionate. That's something I guess you should never let what to say with advent of with our lives getting more and more say singular. Although we have social media, but people are getting more lonely than ever. So it would be great if you consistently practice compassion and consistently build the skills that are required in government advisory, because more often than not you will be advising government on problem statements pertaining to people, and to help build better solutions for people it's very important to be empathic and positive and have an impact mindset.
Thanks, Yashika. So we'll now end this session, and I'll thank you everyone. Thank you to all the audience as well for joining in. And people are, very happy with the session. They're saying it's very informative, Yashika. So
Thank you.
we'll see you next week again, and bye for now, everyone.
Bye bye. Have great careers ahead of you.